To start off exposition, this video will go over how Key's Keyblade War changed the state of the world, projections, and Keyblade wielders. I was going to discuss how long ago these games take place, but frankly, Dark Roast confused me, so I might wait until Missing Link. Part 1. Key and the Undivided and Vast World. The original Key game takes place in the real world. There are theories that it takes place in Data or dreams, Ash is really in a coma, but for now, what's known to be canon is that Key is in the real world. We will discuss the glitching in the real world during Union Cross in a future video. Throughout the Key titles, it's stated that before the war, there was one great Earth, with all the smaller quote-unquote worlds mentioned technically being regions, since they're all connected by land. Brain says you could even walk to them if you wanted to. Back then, the realm of dreams seems to still exist since Ava refers to it. However, because the overall world is still intact, I'm unsure about the realm of darkness, a place the modern, isolated worlds often end up in if they fall to darkness. Dark corridors seem to exist back then, but I think there's a chance they're only projections, which I'll talk more about in a sec, because I don't see how Keyblade wielders could open them without the power of darkness. It might be possible with the Power Bangle, which collects dark energy, but I don't have any evidence for that. Projections in Key. Ephemer reveals to player that, using the Book of Prophecies, future versions of places across the world are projected to where Daybreak Town is. So Keyblade wielders are not opening wormholes across the planet. They're always at Daybreak Town. And the projections are invisible to the outside. You know, it's not like we see Agrabah in the distance of back cover. Ephemer also says that the projections provide the light, or lux, from those faraway lands, not that they're only collecting Daybreak Town's light. Now, both the Master of Masters and the Foretellers could uphold projections. That's why projections still existed in Key after the Master disappeared. Fake Heartless in Key. We know that Emblem Heartless were also projected from the Book of Prophecies since they're invented after Birth by Sleep. But you could debate on if it's the same for Pureblood Heartless, with a few points. This Dark Road scene could be interpreted as saying it was only Emblem Heartless projected, and the Master implies Pureblood Heartless already existed organically during Key. However, we do see Pureblood Heartless featured in the Book of Prophecies, and they're also on medals, powers from the Book of Prophecies. There may not even be that many Pureblood Heartless during Key and Union Cross anyway. During Birth by Sleep, we see Pureblood Heartless in the Realm of Light in only one single cutscene, so we can suspect they were mostly within the Realm of Darkness until the rise of Ansem and Maleficent. So it could be that only some Pureblood Heartless in Key are real, and others are projections. There are obviously Emblem Heartless in Dark Road, but Nomura says Missing Link will explain why. Still, why project fake Heartless in the first place? Well, the real Pureblood Heartless were spawned from the beings of darkness, or true darkness as Dark Road calls them, which the Master sees as the real threat. He wasn't focused on fighting real Heartless, only projected ones that give Lux when defeated, because Lux was the incentive for the unions to compete with each other. He even implies the Keyblades in Key weren't for protecting Kingdom Hearts or the light, but rather for using against one another. Why the war really happened. So the Master of Masters' ultimate goal seems to be defeating true darkness permanently, but these beings are invincible while they're formless. So to make them vulnerable, the Master tells Luxu he plans for all 7 Masters to contain a true darkness within each of their hearts. And to lure in these beings, their hearts need to be filled with strong emotions. And to create these strong emotions, the Master pitted the Foretellers and their unions against each other to collect Lux from Fake Heartless, and he planted doubt by mentioning a traitor in their midst, both of which escalated these us versus them feelings enough to wage a war. Allegedly, by the time it finished, every Lost Master had a being of darkness contained within. We'll explore this more in another video. Some people ask, why didn't the Foretellers just agree to stop the war if they were unaware of this plan? Well, for one, Arsène eventually wanted to rule over the other unions, and Gula wanted Lux to summon Kingdom Hearts to lure back the Master. So, to keep the balance of power, Envy, Ava, and Ira are forced to gather more Lux as well. Even if the Foretellers themselves agree to stop fighting, they would then have to convince their hostile unions, who now have extreme greed for Lux. I'll talk about the Keyblade's absence in Key, as well as the final passage of the Book of Prophecies, in other videos. Part 2. Unchained Key, Union Cross, and the Shattered World. Unchained Key and Union Cross are the same game, so they both occur inside the same data world. Unchained Key often refers to the first half of the story when it's digitally repeating events from the original Key. Union Cross often refers to the second half of the story, when events diverge from Key. I'll walk you through that in depth in a future video. But since they're the same game, I usually say Union Cross in reference to both. It's just easier. I also use Union Cross as source footage for Key, because it's accessible for you and me, high quality, and official English. Now, at this point, all those regions have now been shattered and spread far throughout space as little worlds because of the Keyblade War's impact. We don't technically get to see that happen, but the Keyblade Graveyard itself is probably already its own world by the time Ephemer and Skuld retrieve player in Key's ending. But how could one battle shatter the whole Earth? This is just a theory, but remember how during Key, the Keyblade wielders collected light from faraway lands? I theorized taking away the light from those places made them vulnerable to darkness and fragile. Real Daybreak Town status after the war. While the worlds were overall damaged and shattered apart, I still think they existed in some sense, as the Keyblade Graveyard was still intact, and Daybreak Town was only completely destroyed when its lifeboat pods departed. So while the Dandelions are in the data world, it's probable the real Daybreak Town initially looked like this mural from Cycladic Scala et Kylem's historic attraction, just with the town still present. The word break could reference the worlds breaking apart due to the war. We'll talk more about the real Daybreak Town in a bit. Data projections in Union Cross. The Master foresaw that he and the Foretellers would disappear, and thus no longer pull projections from the book. So these data worlds we're stuck in are virtual backups of all the projections that could exist without the Masters for the Dandelions to explore after the war. It's like if the master recorded a child's favorite bedtime story, so we wouldn't have to read it every night anymore. Other things we'll discuss in future videos are how the Keyblade graveyard still exists if the Dandelions went to a world line with no Keyblade War, and why Ava trained the Dandelions in dreams to reach the world outside if the place they ended up going was inside a data world. Now, at this time, the Emblem Heartless are also implied to be data projections, particularly by the code King Candy obtains that only produces Emblem Heartless. And seeing how the beings of darkness weren't able to leave or enter the data world without the lifeboat, I'm inclined to believe it's the same for Pureblood Heartless, and they too are all data in Union Cross. Dandelions rebuilding the world. In the original key, the Unions collected light competitively. However, in Union Cross, everyone is data except Player and the Dandelions, who aren't even aware of this. So if the foretellers are data now, and the new Union leaders behind the scenes aren't competitive like before, why do Player and the Dandelions still collect Lux in Union Cross? The Master explains that after the war, the Dandelions will now collect light to help rebuild the scattered and damaged worlds outside the data projections. Now, either the data projections are still able to draw in the leftover light outside, or the light collected before the war has now accumulated within the data worlds for the Dandelions to collect again. And this light the Dandelions were collecting, particularly by working together, was helping heal the broken worlds outside without reconnecting them. This explains the legend where using fragments of light, children rebuilt the lost world so the war wouldn't be repeated. Once again, we'll explore this more in another video. This could explain how by Union Cross's end, the real Daybreak Town was not in the end of the world or the realm of darkness, nor did it have the red sky from Scala and Kylem's mural. The lifeboat destroyed the town, but the world still survived intact in the realm of light. Daybreak Town's survivors. Keep an open mind in case Missing Link decides to expand upon or change this section. Ephemer most likely didn't time travel since his pod didn't disappear like the others. But the creation of Gothic Scala at Kylem suggests he's not the only survivor of Daybreak Town. Jensen says that people who are on a world when it falls asleep due to darkness can become trapped by the world's dream and fall asleep themselves. Meaning, when worlds fall to darkness, not everyone dies, gets their heart consumed by Heartless, or is blasted to Traverse Town. Once again, Daybreak Town's world managed to neither fall into darkness nor sleep, rather endured in the realm of light. Radiant Garden also remained in the realm of light when it got taken over by Heartless. If Cid and the other Final Fantasy characters left it willingly, it's possible that a few of Hollow Bastion's citizens survived and endured through the ordeal. Likewise, I think it's possible some of Daybreak Town citizens survived as well. Conclusion. Let's summarize the major points of what we discussed today. The worlds we know used to be intact with one another, but then the Keyblade War shattered them across the galaxy. Projections of places in Heartless used to be pulled from the Book of Prophecies by magic, but were later converted into data so that they could still be upheld after the war. Unions of Keyblade wielders once competed for Lux, eventually heeding into the war. The Dandelions instead worked together to heal the worlds, keeping them isolated. If you have trouble understanding anything, I'll do my best to explain in other ways in the comments, because this was essentially Keyblade War 101. Now we'll get to the meaty details for the rest of exposition.